Hi, this is Sean. Welcome to my channel. I am the Divine Feminine Abolitionist, and we are free. Okay, so I wanted to come back and follow up with the spread that I had chosen for the energy of the 8-8 portal, and I started when the moon began to wane, like right when it started to rain, like the fourth day. I drew this, and before that, I had a spread that I talked about on this channel, and the first card that I pulled from there was the faith card. It was the number 32. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 is my favorite number, and it has, had significant numbers. I feel like the number 5 is very significant in spiritual development. And I talk about, for me, how the number 5, the way it can show up a lot of times is the Hamsa. And I know that part of the spiritual lesson for me is, if I'm operating from a face up the fist, or if I'm operating from Hamsa, where my hand is open, my heart, or the natural way of my being is to operate from Hamsa. But there are a lot of times I go through life and I'm always fighting. A lot of times I'm fighting against the change that the divine is trying to do for me, just because I want to stay in what's familiar. And that has not always served me, because what's familiar has not always been in service of my highest good. And part of my life lesson has been to have better judgment, because I have operated in times in my life with poor judgment, and every time that I have operated in poor judgment, I have received extreme justice for that. And my life is about balance. Like, I was born to 2 Libra parents, and my Libra father represents judgment in my life. Well, I'm sorry, justice. He represents justice in my life. And my Libra mother represents judgment. And I think if you do the work and you get into divine, you'll learn a lot about, like, your life plan and your trajectory, and what it is, why it is that you chose those parents. Because obviously in former lifetimes, I was still operating from places of poor judgment, and still operating from places where I was enacting the need for justice to manifest. So of course my father would show up as justice, because he was the most absent, and wanting to manifest justice is wanting to manifest his presence, wanting to manifest his authority, which because he wasn't there, he wasn't exercising those things. And because he was making the choice to put himself in a position where extreme justice had to be enacted in his life, he could not serve as justice for mine. And in terms of my mother, because she would not operate in her full power, she abdicated the power, and denying and putting me in positions where I would be abused, and putting me in positions where I would be hurt, and not taking accountability for it, and forcing me to, to lie about a lot of things, to go through, challenges and experiences in a childhood that I don't feel any child will have to do. So there has been a lot of karma enacted, and a lot of karma that I had to work out, until I got to the point of balance, of keeping my heart light as a feather, in regards to these 2 souls who I actually chose to come to the planet with. But justice and judgment in this particular season of my life, because whatever is happening in a person who is a light worker's life is kind of, it's the macro, it's the micro that's happening in the macro. So we're really going into, so Aquarius, what it has done is open up the season of justice and judgment, and you cannot, or you can't have either without the other. So having divine judgment and having divine justice is Maat. And it is this sense of harmony and balance and reciprocity. And I, I shared this on the channel, but I don't remember which video it was. It was a quote by Einstein, and it says that no problem can be solved from the same consciousness that created it. And I've been thinking a lot about that, because as I told you before, what my channel is about sharing my own spiritual evolution, my own journey, and that anybody that gets kind of drawn into this, it's because whatever's happening with me is speaking something to you. Like, I don't necessarily read for a collective or whatever, because I'm not trying to tap into other people's energy. I'm trying to deal with my own energy to make sure I'm balancing and make sure that I'm navigating the planet as my best self that I possibly can, and sharing some of the tools, some of the ways that I've gone about doing that, and just giving information and downloads that come to me, because I feel like if it comes to me and somebody is drawn to something I'm saying, then it's information for other people as well. So I have always believed in each one teach one, so that we all grow, because if you get knowledge and wisdom and it's helping you to live a better life, live a more abundant life, then keeping that knowledge to yourself is just selfish and self-absorbed. And there's a consequence for acting from that kind of behavior. As we know from living in the world with people who have done it for centuries and decades and centuries and decades. It just is what it is. But I'm currently reading Toni Morrison's The Source of Self-Regard. For me, Toni Morrison is a high priestess of just incredible proportions. I mean, her energy, the way she navigates in the world, and her body of work, and what she has done, and what she has given us as a map and as a roadblock is just incredible. So I want to read a little bit from this section. It's called Peril, and it says, authoritarian regimes, dictators, despots are often, but not always, fools. But none is foolish enough to give perceptive, dissident writers free range to publish their judgments or follow their creative instincts. They know they do so at their own peril. They are not stupid enough to abandon control, overt or insidious, over media. Their methods include surveillance, censorship, arrest, even slaughter of those writers informing and disturbing the public. Writers who are unsettling, calling into question, taking another, deeper look. Writers, journalists, essayists, bloggers, poets, playwrights can disturb the social oppression that functions like a coma on the population, a coma despots call peace, and they staunch the blood flow of war that hawks and profiteers thrill to. That is their peril. Ours is another sort. And even though she's writing this about a specific community of people, I feel like light workers need to be included in that, because I was watching Black Magic 363, and Aquarius Maximus, who I am absolutely obsessed with right now, her energy, her flow, and just how it resonates with where I'm at in my life. But she was on there, and the topic of conversation was Civil War 2022. And she gave, her understanding of what the Civil War, and one of the things she said was how we have evolved, and that the Civil War wouldn't be like the wars that we had known before. And it in 20 in well kind of in 2016, someone had declared, a group of people decided to declare war on me, and one of the tools that they used was technology. The re They had done this pattern of declaring war on people, but really what it was a group of people who had invested in real estate, and they had a specific ideology of who should occupy the real estate, who should occupy the land, who should occupy the community, and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't necessarily fit their understanding or their belief system. And so this particular group of people had operated like this before, and there was like, the source of their funding and the source of their energy came from a nucleus, and the nucleus was an individual who is an extremely wealthy real estate developer who built on the precept of really hatred for the people that they made money off of, which were poor working class people who didn't necessarily have his same standards of living or lifestyle, but he didn't have a problem building his wealth off of these people. And in doing so, he collected a following of like-minded people, and he comes from a certain consciousness. So these people declared war, and it's interesting a lot of times, because some of these people have studied war. They have studied war of people like Hitler. Those have been their heroes. People who have dominated, created genocide. People who have used hate and fear mongering as their weapons of warfare. And so one of the ways that you can control a person is, we use our phones for everything. And if you're watching every single thing a person does, then their routines, their things, the way they do things, and you can interfere. And so if you think that a person's marriage is on the brink, what you do is you start to send information that says, oh, your person is having an affair, or you start to send persons who may be attractive to the other partner, and the other partner might start to have, secret online affairs, emotional affairs, and then you actually can send people into this person's environment. Like, if this person has a tendency to go towards drug addiction or things like that, then you pair them up with people who don't mind being used for your purpose. And so some of this was going on, and the purpose was to enact war against me. It wasn't personal towards me. It was just that I didn't fit the ideology that this particular organization had decided this is what this community is about. And the first thing I started to do was advocate for myself, to put myself in a better position to be able to document what was going on. One of the things I know about adversarial energy is that it doesn't like when you advocate for yourself, because adversarial energy needs you to be weak. It needs to isolate you, and it needs to destroy your reputation, destroy your character. So it might use things from your past and to substantiate some of the behavior. They could be doing all kinds of illegal things, and say you did 2 illegal things. They could be doing all kinds of illegal things, and they'll say, oh, well, look at what this person did, look at what this person did. And they're in the act of doing illegal things, like hacking your Wi-Fi and creating surveillance on you, following you, things like that. So that kind of energy started like in 2016, and then I became a person who advocated for myself and but one thing I was doing, because I was a community member, I was seeking out help from like law enforcement and things like that, unbeknownst to me, because I didn't know the full scope of the information, because for one, I wasn't that connected spiritually yet to be able to listen to what my guides were telling me what was going on. Like, I knew in the 5D about some of the stuff that they were doing in the 3D, but I really didn't have 3D proof or a 3D means of, because I really didn't understand what was going on. So I didn't understand the kind of protection that I really needed to call in or whatever. And thank God that I have the kind of ancestors, the kind of ancients, the kind of spirits guides that I do have, that just because I didn't have awareness of it didn't mean that it wasn't going on. So anyway, some of this energy happened, and you go to law enforcement or whatever, and I was wondering, why isn't law enforcement doing what needs to be done to stop this? Well, first of all, I didn't know that law enforcement was involved in illegal surveillance, because, I just was ignorant to things that could happen. So if you have a multimillionaire saying to your local police station, hey, I have a cybersecurity system and I use it to monitor my properties, and I will give you guys access to it at any time if anything suspicious. Okay, so here you have a person who's acting illegally, but they're using law enforcement to, spy on their citizens and, be a part of organizations that are fringe groups that are politically motivated, blah, 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 blah. So I wasn't aware of any of that stuff. Again, just because we aren't aware doesn't mean the spirit is not looking out for us and protecting us. So a lot of energy was coming and connecting itself to my life. And I didn't understand. Like, the first thing you will know about adversarial low vibrational energy, and a succubus energy has tried to attach to your energy, it will start to affect your health. So my health started becoming affected. And one of the things that happened, which was a physical thing that happened, but it was like a spiritual, it was kind of like a spiritual knock at my door saying, hey, you need to be aware, you need to be open up to this. My heart dissected. So what that means is a piece of my heart broke and it traveled in my body, and by all intents and purposes, that was supposed to kill me. But what happened is it traveled in my body and it created a blood clot. And it created a blood clot to such a degree that I just ignored it. Like, I had the pain or whatever, but I am a person of color and I have been conditioned to live with pain. I'm a Black woman. I've been conditioned to live with pain, and I had a high tolerance for pain that other people would experience and didn't do anything. So because I was in a partnership with someone who I didn't trust, this person, I didn't trust that if I wasn't around, that this person would not do some egregious thing. So I was concerned about having to go into the hospital, and spirit, was moving me to be like, look, this is no way to live, to be partnered up with somebody that you can't even trust, that you're so afraid that if you leave this space, this thing is going to happen, because if you already, whatever you fear already is. So anyway, what happened was my body gave out and I had to go into the hospital, and I had lost the ability to walk. So that was divine saying, I have given you so many warnings, so many opportunities to walk away from this situation before it affects you in such a like your heart is going to be so broken in this situation. And it wasn't like divine didn't give me a precursor of what I could expect, because this person had broken my heart before I even gotten into a marriage. I had gotten extremely devastated by this person, and I still went into the marriage, which, again, like I said, I practice over and over and over again, not paying attention to the signs that divine was giving me in my life, and made poor judgment. Because when you have low self-worth and low self-value, you will make those kind of choices. And as much as I would like to say that wasn't my case, because I was intelligent, I was resourceful, I was beautiful, where do you see low self-worth? The choices that you make in life will indicate what your degree of worth is, what you are willing to allow in your life, lets you know what your degree of worth is. So anyway, I got into that situation. And because I chose a partner who I had no business aligning my life with, I experienced extreme trauma, because he and I were just trauma bonded, and we were living out especially past life trauma. We had some contracts, some spiritual contracts that we needed to adhere to, and they were violated in the situation. But on top of that, because I put myself in a position to be with this person, and outside people made a decision and judgments about that, they decided to influence. And what I have learned about spiritual living is that the one, I don't believe necessarily in this thing called sin or whatever, but the one thing that I feel like is an egregious violation to the divine intelligence is when other human beings interfere with the will and the life plan or person destiny of another person. Like, it's one thing for you to make these choices, but then when outsiders influence you, because they deem what they believe is best for a complete stranger, or based on how they want to live their lives and how they believe life should be lived, they try to project that onto you. And not only project it onto you, they try to force you to live in it by interfering with your life, especially underhandedly, and doing a lot of secret behind your back, a lot of stuff that they believe, because for so long they haven't been caught in the 3D. But in the 5D, everything is seen. Like, there's nothing hidden. So what started to happen is I started to ebb and flow in the 5D a little bit. And when this was happening, this was before I really, really was working with the Orishas, like deep. So this might have been like in 2017. Shongo just showed up, and Shongo was like, I need to handle some energy around your house, because I had a next door neighbor that was really creating a lot of energy and projecting a lot of negative energy because of the headspace that he and his organization and, a lot of stuff that he was involved in. So Shongo was like, I need to deal with some stuff. So I started working with Shongo, and Shongo started to deal with some of the stuff that was going on outside of my control, things that I couldn't see, things that I didn't know. And so then I started to really work with the Orishas, which helped me a lot to get protection for myself, not only in the 5D, but in the 3D, because there was still so much, because these people had a particular authority in the community that I didn't necessarily have, but I had an authority in the spiritual world that these people had no idea about. So this was going on. So there was a war happening. I didn't necessarily understand spiritual law or spiritual warfare at the time. I had heard about it specifically from a Christian perception of what it was. But then when I started to do my own spiritual work and have my own spiritual evolution, I understood that was what was going on for them in terms of what was warfare, strategic planning, and the way that they were attacking through technology and attacking my life through making choices, I understood that they had an understanding of the warfare that was happening, and that to them, I was their prey. To them, I was their target. And I understood what was happening spiritually, and the other areas where they didn't understand. They didn't understand how God was moving, and what was happening spiritually. So they couldn't understand the things that were happening, because to them, from them looking outside, they were like, oh, we're making her go crazy, we're doing this, we're mocking her, like they were so aggressive, and they were so haughty, even till this day, like, and they just kept, the concept to them is we're winning, we're winning, we're winning, where they weren't understanding what was happening and all of the ammunition that they were giving to the Orishas and to my ancestors. And then their ancestors started to come onto my side. Like, people from their side started to come to me, talk to me, apologize, just wail for them, because they didn't have any more peace on the other side. Like, they had tried to be gaining peace, and here are these people practicing these behavior patterns that were generational and generational, and they just kept, new generations were coming up, and it was like this warfare, and it was like, I don't even, I'm just trying to live my life to the best of my ability. Why am I even in this? But a lot of times we don't know what our spiritual calling is. We don't know that we're called to be the empress. We're called to be the high priestess. We don't know that, because we're going through life and we have not been groomed for these practices. We don't know. We just don't know. And then when you start working with this, you have no idea how spirit is going to bless you, protect you, keep you safe, or, get you through stuff, or use you in a spiritual war. So there is like a spiritual war going on. And so when she was saying the civil war, the term civil is, we have not been civil with one another. And divine intelligence is about civility, is about the balance of civility, because people who believe in chaos, anarchs, believe that you have to uproot civility. They believe in aggression. They have used the same formula centuries after centuries after centuries, and they have gotten the same results time after time, and they get very excited about winning battles and losing wars, because they've lost the same war after war after war. And when I say losing wars, I'm talking about this war of dominance, what dominance is. And it's like you're going after the same thing, and you may win battle after battle after battle, but you end up losing the war. So what you do is you end up having to keep recycling the patterns and behaviors until you get it right. And all of us, actually, what we all really want to do is get it right. The thing is, we all think we're right in the way that we're doing it. But if my way of getting right leaves somebody out, then my way is not right. Because the whole purpose is that as a human race, we get to survival. As a human race, we get to the new world order. As a human race, we live as above, so below. As a human race, not one particular group, not one particular gender, and things like that. So anyway, I said all that to say is the next couple of days I'm going to be talking about these energies that came, because the cards that I pulled to support, because I pulled the spread, which was the Magician, the Empress, and the Strength card. And then these are my cards from Cardology. So when I did the number from the Gypsy deck, 46 and 25, they add to 8. And so I knew I was like kind of on track when I'm getting messages because I pulled this from the 8-8 portal energy. And so when my first spread ever was in the 2020 season of the 8-8 energy. And that spread was a pre-teller of what I would be going through for the next 2 years, where I was and where I was going to. And of course, the Empress energy was paramount in that, in terms of where I needed to move my consciousness to. I was nowhere near Empress energy. As a matter of fact, I was Empress in reverse. I was Queen of Wands in reverse. I was Queen of Cups in reverse. I was Queen of Swords in reverse. I was just in a state of reverse. I had 10 of Swords. I had 8 of Wands. I had 2 of Cups, and I had 3 of Cups. And I could not, because I hadn't studied the cards. I was just trying to understand what the imagery was. And let's just take the 10 of Swords. Like, the deck that I was using was the Afro-Brazilian deck. And it kept, like, the imagery on that is what I felt like. Because when you experience that level of betrayal, that level of devastation, that level of heartbreak, and it wasn't just on one level, like romantically. If anybody has ever been in a marriage or a union that has lasted close to 10 years, then you believe that you're in an experience with someone who is your friend. So there is a mourning when that separates. So you're losing somebody that you believed was your friend, and then you have to come to the reality of, this person wasn't even my friend. And no longer is this person my spouse, but they weren't even my friend. And this was a karmic lesson. And it's very devastating to know you have invested almost 10 years of your life in a karmic lesson that, had you listened to spirit in the very beginning, you could have avoided this. You could have avoided what you're going through now. But this is what I chose. So I had to be grateful, because it could have been so much worse than what it actually was. But that 10 of Swords moment is like, that energy. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't wish betrayal of a spouse. I don't wish humiliation. I don't wish abandonment. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't even wish it on the person who did it to me. I don't wish it on anybody. I don't want anybody to be in that energy. But I realized that, it's going to happen. And then I can't remember if it was the 2 of Cups or the 3 of Cups, but one of the images was, there was a frog facing, the person looking at the card. And I kept wondering, what is this? It's like, and at first I thought it was a pearl in the frog. That's how I was reading the card. Like, okay, this frog is saying abundance, but that's not what it was. It was a moon in the frog, because usually frogs, they're loud. They make a loud sound, and it's, it can be irritating, but if it's very distinctive. If you hear a frog calling, you know what that sound is. But this had something stopping it from, but it was a moon. And what it was telling me is, there were so many secrets in my union. I mean, I knew that I was married to a person whose secrets I was keeping. And you would think that person would keep mine too, but they weren't. That wasn't a part of who they were. So, the thing about it was like, these secrets these secrets are causing this person to behave like this. It's the secrets that's destroying it, that's putting all of this stuff. And I was like, well, when you love somebody, you love everything about them. And there's nothing hidden. If you are a seer, there's really nothing hidden about your person to you, especially if you're in a situation where this person is the gift of how you pay karmic debt. Nothing is hidden about this person. If this is the way that you are going to heal karmic debt, then God is going to say, and this is what you got to deal with, because when I told you to move in a certain way, you didn't want to move in a certain way. So this is the way that I'm trying to help you heal this and balance the scales. Live Maat. Sorry if you saw that pink pillow. I live somewhere that has vents, and I try to have as much privacy as I can. Not that I believe that I'm having privacy, because, you know, it is what it is. But I try to do the best I can to give myself privacy and to give my neighbor privacy, because I try to do for people what I want to be done to me. But anyway, I said all that to say is, so that card came up, and then the card that was most prevalent for me in that particular reading 2020 was the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands, I was completely reading it wrong because I didn't know tarot so much at the time. So I'm just reading the imagery, and I thought it was saying to me that you can get out of this and you can go beyond the bullshit. And yeah, that was a message. But what it also was saying to me is the place you're in right now is a self-induced prison. Because if you look at any card of Eight of Wands, it's nothing stopping the person from getting out. Like, there's no locks or anything. You're not bound or anything. And even if they show a person bound, it's bound to the point where they can let the bounds go. If you apply a little teeny bit of effort, this is something that you can get out of. That's what the Eight of Wands was trying to tell me at the time. But it's what I lived through, but at the time, I didn't know the cards were saying to me, this is what you can endure. And I thought the stars were the light of the path. I didn't know at the time that they were my ancestors saying, we are with you. You are not alone, even though that's exactly how I felt. Because for one thing, my family did not do well with divorce. And I was already in a marriage that they did not approve of. And I had spent almost a decade in that marriage, and so much of it was in separation and in judgment from my family. So I didn't believe that my ancestors were with me. I felt like I was absolutely alone, but I would learn that I was never, that, and I am never alone, because one, there's nothing we can go through that will separate us from the love of source. And our ancestors are always with us. Either they are in support of us or they're in disappointment of how we have lived, but they're still with us, even if they're wailing and crying or they're celebrating in celebration that we are on the path and we're on the journey and that we are healing karmic debt, not only for ourselves, but for them as well. Because we're, this lifetime that we're living, it's not just about us. It's about the ancestors. It's about the people. But anyway, so I think the civil war that she's talking about is true. I think that it's going to manifest its way through technology and a lot of people who have avoided judgment by hiding behind privilege or entitlement are going to experience justice. And if you just turn on the news, you will see some of that manifesting right now. So karma, so before I let this go, justice comes in masculine form, divinity of masculine. Karma or judgment comes in the divine feminine form, and it is the balance of those that forms Maat, harmony. So I wanted to come on and give that. I don't want to make this video way too long, but I just wanted to give that download that I got, and just to have you think about your own life and what represents justice, what represents judgment, and what is the way that you're going to create reciprocity and harmony in your life. What energies do you have to take on? For me, it's the Magician, the Empress, and Strength. I wish you peace and blessings.